So today we're taking a look at a very good ranked game that I had the other day. I don't play ranked all that often, but it is possible to get some decent brawls in this ranked. Mainly because there's just fewer people. And that helps so much to push in and all that stuff. So I generally play a GK or secondary battleships of some sort in ranked because, you know, there's just less people to shoot at you as you're pushing in, means you're more likely to get into secondary range. You'll also notice I have range mod for those times where you have to play at long ranges. I'll talk about the build later in port, but I'm trying to find a build that is good for most scenarios. And Deadeye certainly helps us out at the longer ranges of things. But even when Deadeye isn't active, GK can still smash some people. It's got 12 guns after all. So maybe a Stalingrad broadside? Perhaps? And Deadeye is not active in this one. So this is just normal GK. Yeah, I mean, 4 Citadels is pretty good. I'll take that. Yeah, pretty good start. So, decision-making time. Do we push in or not? And the answer is yes, actually. Their Thunder and Donskoy are very far away. The Stalingrad's probably going to hide behind an island. And we know they have a DD at the opposite cap. So, we are actually able to push here because we have more forces here. And since there's very few enemy ships around, we're actually able to angle to basically everything and, you know, get some decent angles off. It also helps that their cruiser on this side is going to be the Plymouth. And if you angle to a Plymouth, it does next to no damage. It has very mediocre DPM, and, well, it's very reliant on, you know, being in a smoke and all that stuff. It's better against destroyers and catching things broadside and all that stuff. So, a reasonable ship to push into for sure. And our Thunder is definitely more focused on killing our Kremlin at the moment. You notice we lost a rune at the very beginning, got Devstruck off the map. So, our shot on the Stalingrad, while good, we're still at a disadvantage. So we do need to make something happen here. A Smallland is obviously very dangerous to our destroyers. And you can see how little HP our black has left. And so I don't want to necessarily push around this corner because we know there's going to be Smallland torps for sure, and likely some Plymouth torps as well. Here, I gotta be honest, I don't actually know what happened here. I think I aimed a little too far back, but regardless, GK has some wonky dispersion sometimes. You gotta be okay with that. But the nice thing is we're getting pretty close. And this is where our secondaries can actually do some work. I've found that GK secondaries are pretty good at close range. Even though they don't hit as much or as often, at these closer ranges, they still pen 32 millimeters, keep in mind. That's where the strength of the GK is in these close range fights. And you'll see that later on versus the Thunderer specifically. Here I'm just trying to bait out torpedoes, honestly. That's my main thought here. Our Stalin gets an awesome shot into the Montana, holy crap. And then we're just trying to spot this Smallland with Hydro. Hopefully our guys can get some shots over. And the key is to not push around this corner. There's a Plymouth and a Smallland. Those torpedoes are very dangerous. So we're just trying to provide an angle where it's difficult for this Smallland to get away. If he tries to push back towards the other two caps, our team obviously has that gap covered, and I have this other gap covered. So we've pretty much pinched this Smallland in here, and he's unlikely to be able to get away. Unfortunately, our Hydro runs out, so we don't actually keep him lit all that long, but our Smolensk is pushing in. Hopefully he's smart enough to just get behind the island and Hydro him. Because if he pushes around that corner, he's certainly going to die. And might even throw this game. This is still a potentially winnable game, even though we are down on ships and down on points and down on caps. The main reason we're still in it is we have a pretty concentrated force here, and I think the HP pools are reasonably in our favor. Not a huge margin, but it certainly helps that this Thunder is playing so passively. That is a big part of this play. Now, I'm just waiting here. I am a constant threat to these people. So playing a waiting game here was the right play. Unfortunately, our Swillens kind of rushed things and decided to suicide. And now he's gonna become Mr. Backseat Gamer Admiral in chat for the rest of the game, which is a little disappointing, but that's okay. We can get through it. GK, I do run the Expert Loader, or Gun Feeder it is, because sometimes you're just facing things that are bow in that you can't overmatch or can't deal good damage with AP, so you do want HE sometimes. It has a decent fire chance. AP is definitely better though, especially when you can overmatch people. I don't really know if this is just a lucky game that I had in GK, but the guns were working today. At least for this game. I didn't play another one. I didn't want to chance another one. So, decision time. Do we push into the cap or not? And I actually decide not to. That might be a controversial one, but I don't actually think pushing into the cap here is the right play. Because I would have to give broadside to the Thunder while he's, like, for an extended period of time, I mean. And I would limit my movement. It would make me easy to torp by the Plymouth. Yeah, it's just really a dangerous scenario. I know I have a lot of HP, but I'm about to be fighting 3 ships or so, and a Thunder is one of them. So I don't want to necessarily give up all my HP for free here, just trying to get the cap. And we do have a bit of time. You'll notice that that's 2 minutes left on the clock. I'm hoping that my teammates can take out perhaps the Destroyer, or maybe even the Donskoy, that kind of thing. So it's just good for me to stay alive here. We all know how fast a Thunderer can kill a battleship. If you don't know, I have a video on my channel of burning down a Yamato in 2 minutes, something like that, full HP, and that's at 20 kilometers. So yeah, closer ranges, it's going to be even worse. So Secondaries definitely going to help us out a lot in this fight. The Thunderer makes a mistake of pushing into a GK. It's still going to be a close fight though, because the Plymouth will help out a lot, and I don't really have that much maneuverability room because there is an island coming up in the future here. But I shouldn't be focused on this Thunderer. I should really angle to this guy. I should be going up the 2-3 line. I should have turned hard right already, and I should have my guns on the right-hand side, and I should be focusing on that Donskoy and Stalingrad. That's where the real fight is. Hopefully they can kill the Destroyer. Looks like the Yugumo's on pretty low HP. But I could be doing a lot more to help my team win this one if I was focused on that Donskoy, for example. Getting him out would be a huge help to our, especially our Stalingrad, who's on pretty low HP. A single fire or something like that could just end it. And you can see the Thunder has the right idea. He's trying to help his team on the other side. Killing a GK is not going to be all that quick. So he's trying to help out his team on the other side. So I kind of freeze up here. I don't actually think about this until right about now, where I'm thinking, oh, I should do cross maps on this guy. And that would be a good thing for my team. But he goes dark, and he's not going to get lit for a while. I can tell that because he's backing up, and my team has no way of really spotting him over that island. So I need to switch back to the Thunder and just kill him. But these kind of decision-making things can really swing the game in your favor or against you a lot. Deciding where to shoot, deciding where to position, that's what this game is all about. And I definitely don't do it perfectly every time. Even though this is a very, very, very good game, I could definitely play this a little bit better. But yeah, the crossfire that the Thunder and the Plymouth had set up, or were getting set up, would have definitely killed me very quickly if I had pushed into the A cap. That's why I believe not pushing into there was the correct play. And to be fair, I was relying on my teammates pretty heavily in this one to win that other side, but I should be able to kill this Thunderer here reasonably quickly. Bow on at these close ranges, you can do some pretty solid damage through the superstructure. And this is where GK is at its deadliest. When the Secondaries are shooting and they're hitting the bow. You can see that, where the Secondaries are all hitting right on his bow. And they're all going to full pen that. So, yeah, the Secondaries are tearing this guy up. right now. And I think a reasonable build could be one that doesn't take full secondaries, considering this is where the ship is at its strongest, and you're very rarely in this scenario. Get a nice secure from the Kremlin, giving us just that little bit extra more time to hopefully get in the cap or make something happen. But we got to kill this Donskoy now. I'm not even thinking about the Plymouth right now. I'm thinking about the Kremlin and him spotting the Donskoy. I need to be ready for a shot on that guy, because that's who we need to kill next. And we got a minute 15 to do it. That means we got around 2.5 salvos to maybe 3 salvos to do that. This was a weird game. There's some weird decisions that I made and the enemy team made. They just kind of overcommitted into overcommitted into areas of the map they already had control of. If this Thunder had played passive, he would have actually probably won the game. As funny as that sounds, pushing in a Thunder when you already own the cap is probably not the best idea. Yeah. So we don't actually end up getting the Donskoy, our Stalin does, so good job to him. He's been definitely cleaning up on the other side of the map, so good job for him. GK is a strong ship when used correctly. And using it correctly generally means stalling a push. I've found that GK pushing is really bad. The superstructure is too big, too easy to hit. It's not maneuverable enough to really reliably dodge torpedoes. It is best when it's kiting. We all know ships get an advantage when they're kiting because of the shell flight time. When they're running away, it's harder to hit somebody who's running away than coming towards you. So that is one thing in its favor. And the other thing is the turret angles. The rear turrets have a really poor firing arc forwards, and the front turrets have a pretty decent firing arc backwards. You're about to see that. We're going to angle pretty well here to this Plymouth. And I've had some pretty crazy games where I've been stalling a push with this ship, not pushing myself. It's a very good ship at stalling a push, I've found. And that's where I'm trying to position it and play it these days, not pushing. And it works, you know, reasonably well. The only problem is people don't push these days anymore. This was a pretty rare example of a Thunderer pushing in, and the correct play for him was actually not to push in. So the game often is teaching you that lesson where the correct play is to not push in. Unfortunately, that just creates an even more passive meta. And there we go. Top score. We had a pretty solid game, I would say. Stalingrad definitely cleaned up, so props to him. And yeah, 65k out of secondaries? That's some pretty good damage, I would say. So the build that I'm running is pretty much the standard one I've been running for a while now. It does involve Deadeye and Concealment with the secondary upgrades. I am running AA Gunner to hopefully help me survive a little bit in random battles and when an carrier is in the game. But it's really not going to help all that much. But there's the build I'm running. You could definitely run Vigilance or Grease the Gears. Those would be definitely some great options. If you want to go all in on a secondary build, I would probably switch Deadeye out for Fire Prevention. This is not a very good upgrade. It's very situational and not terribly useful. And realistically, the problem with secondary builds is not damage output, it is survivability at close ranges. So that's where I'd recommend the Fire Prevention. If you're not wanting to go with a Deadeye build, and then the equipment real quick, I have been running range mod, but reload or range are both very good. I don't recommend the unique upgrade at all. This is a horrible upgrade for the current meta. Concealment, pretty standard. I am running steering gears, and that is to help with dodging at longer ranges. I'm finding that if I'm able to mitigate damage at long ranges early game, I have more HP late game to push in with. So yeah, that's kind of why I've been doing that. Secondary is pretty standard for a secondary build, as well as auxiliary armaments, because your secondaries can die pretty quickly. With range mod, you could realistically run a fighter, but spotters are pretty useful. So that's kind of the GK. I don't play the ship very much, or any of the German ones, but I've found ranked to be a possible opportunity where you can run a GK, or a secondary build in general, just because of the lack of people in the game. Creates opportunities for pushing more often. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great day.